If you own a food truck or a restaurant, if you're hoping to make it big in the food business, and if at the same time you haven't trademarked your brand, this video is for you. I'll go through 15 well-known food truck and restaurant brands and share with you some details about when they were trademarked. Once again, if you run a food truck or a restaurant and you're hoping to make it big in the food industry, you might want to consider doing what these really successful brands did. Let the countdown begin. Number 15. With almost 3,000 restaurants worldwide, popular Mexican-inspired restaurant Chipotle trademarked their brand just 1 year and 1 month after their launch. Chipotle's founder, Steve Ells, used an $85,000 loan from his father to open his first restaurant in July of 1993. And they filed their first trademark on August 26th of 1994. To put things into perspective, by August of 1994, they still only had one restaurant. The second Chipotle restaurant was only launched in 1995. Protecting the brand early on was probably one of the best investments they ever made, as between 1998 and 2001, McDonald's heavily invested in Chipotle's growth. And if we know a thing or two about McDonald's, it's that they understand the value of well-protected brands. Number 14. Recognized as Whole Foods Supplier of the Year, Luke's Lobster trademarked their brand 11 months after their launch. The brand was launched on July 23, 2009 and trademarked on June 18th of 2010. Number 13. Hooters. Who doesn't love Hooters, right? Known for their chicken wings and attractive servers, Hooters trademarked their brand 10 months after their launch. The brand was started in April of 1983, mostly as a joke, and the first trademark they filed was on February 6th of 1984. The first restaurant opened its doors on October 4th, 1983. In 1984, the year when the brand was trademarked, the original owners of the company sold the rights to investors. So let's just put it in this way. Back in 1984, when the brand was trademarked, Hooters was barely much more than an idea and a brand. And see what they managed to accomplish over the years. Number 12, Johnny Rockets. Aside from serving over 8 million hand-spun milkshakes per year, popular 50s diner-style restaurant chain Johnny Rockets trademarked their brand barely 3 months after their launch. The brand was started in June of 1986 and trademarked on September 9th, 1986. Now, I don't know how many locations they managed to open by September 9th of 1986, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't much more than one. Yes, they treated their brand seriously and protected it right away. Number 11. Aside from their well-kept chicken recipe and salsa that people demand to take home with them, did you know that El Pollo Loco trademarked their brand 3 months after their launch? Launched in the US in December of 1980, the brand was trademarked on March 23rd of 1981. And once again, to put things into perspective, the second location was not open until the fall of 1981. Yet, they already had secured the rights to the brand. Number 10. Aside from their popular Italian-American menu, unlimited salad and breadsticks, did you know that the Olive Garden trademarked their brand 2 months after their launch? The company started in December of 1982, and on February 17th of 1983, they had their first trademark filed. With roughly 900 worldwide locations today, it looks like the initial investment in protecting the brand has paid off. Number 9. Home of the pretzel bun and the Baconator, Wendy's got their first trademark 2 months after they launched their first store. And the first location was launched in November of 1969, and the first trademark was filed on January 22nd of 1970. Oh, and if you're wondering, they launched their Baconator on June 10th of 2007. And guess when they filed a trademark to protect the name? 4 months before the great reveal on February 28th of 2007. You see, if there's one lesson Wendy's learned, it's that their brand has value, but only because they own it and because they have the legal right to stop others from copying their brand. Back in January of 1970, when Wendy's filed their first trademark, all they had was a single location. It took them 2 more years to run their first local TV commercial broadcast only in Ohio. Yet they already owned the most valuable asset in their business, their trademarked brand. Number 8, if I had to only eat one type of food for the rest of my life, it'd be steaks. Ribeye, rare, thick, and salty. Anyway, I digress. Number 8 is Outback Steakhouse, Australian-inspired steakhouse with over 1,000 restaurants in 23 countries. Outback trademarked their brand just 1 month after they opened their first restaurant. The company was launched in February of 1988, and the first restaurant opened in March of 1988. And here's what one of the founders said about their first night. We opened our doors, and it was very quiet. Hardly anybody came. We had to call people over for dinner. No one had ever heard of Outback except our friends, and they were our only customer base. Within 15 months, 5 more restaurants were opened. But long before that, only 1 month after their first quiet night, on April 6th of 1988, they filed their first trademark. Back in 2017, their annual revenue was close to $4 billion. But back in 1988, when they were trademarking their brand, they only had a single restaurant that nobody visited. Tells you all you need to know about doing the right thing for your brand at the right time. Number 7, taking Miami by storm with their food truck serving award-winning grilled cheese sandwiches, Miss Cheesiest trademarked their brand just 1 month after launch. Hello? Do you hear me? All they had was a food truck selling grilled cheese sandwiches. And the first thing they did after they launched on November 29th of 2010 is they went out and they trademarked their brand on January 14th of 2011. Number 6, and if you thought that the Miss Cheesiest food truck was crazy, let's talk about Oink and Moo Barbecue. Started as a food truck and now a fleet of food trucks and a brick and mortar restaurant in New Jersey, Oink and Moo Barbecue promises the best barbecue experience. I haven't tried their food, but one thing I know about them is that they trademarked their brand 2 days after launch. 2 days! Do you know how many food trucks get launched in North America every year? Neither do I. I only know that it's a lot. And the other thing I know is that most of them never trademark their brands and most of them never succeed. I'll tell you more. The vast majority of food trucks that never made it, that never became successful, they never trademark their brands. And it's not a coincidence. Someone who starts a food truck and runs to the trademarks office to secure the brand is truly committed to their success. To them, failure is not an option. They know they're going to succeed. Otherwise, why would they be filing a trademark that's going to take them at least a year to register? So they treat their brand and their business seriously. That's why they succeed. And guess what? We haven't even reached the top of the list yet. Opening our top 5 is another great steakhouse, Texas Roadhouse. famous for their hand-cut steaks, full of the bone ribs, and made from scratch sides, Texas Roadhouse trademarked their brand 2 months before launch. Not after they had a chain of restaurants across the United States, not after they started their second restaurants, not even after they opened the doors to their first one. 2 months before they launched back in February of 1993. But guess what? By the time their first customers ordered their steak and beer, the owners have already filed their first trademark application back on December 18th of 1992. Number 4. Guess when the 4th largest pizza chain in the US, Papa John's, trademarked their brand? The first restaurant was launched in October of 1984, but they filed their first trademark a whole year before that, on October 21st of 1983. Are you getting this? They knew that their business was not about dough, tomato sauce, and mushrooms. They knew that their business was all about building a brand. And there's no reason in the world to spend a minute of your life or $1 out of your pocket building a brand you don't own. So they did the right thing and protected their brand before anyone had a chance to snatch it from under their nose. A year before launch. Number 3, Bazaar Meat by Jose Andres was trademarked 1 year and 2 months before launch. Why? Well, because trademarks and exclusivity go hand in hand. If you want to create an exclusive experience, you have to make sure that others can't copy and dilute your brand. And the only way to do that is through getting a trademark, which is exactly what Bazaar Meat has done. Again, a whole whopping 14 months before the restaurant opened its doors in August of 2014. Their trademark was filed on June 20th of 2013. Number 2, another place known for its excellence and exclusivity, Rose's Luxury. Known for excellent food and long lines, they didn't waste any time and trademarked their brand 1 year and 6 months before they opened the restaurant. See, they didn't need a concept of growing it to a chain of hundreds of locations. And all they needed is the belief that they're building something valuable. So on March 26, 2012, they filed their first trademark application long before their opening in October of 2013. And finally, at the top of our list, number 1, Le Bernardin. Considered as one of the best 3 Michelin-starred restaurants in New York, Le Bernardin trademarked their brand 1 year and 8 months before launch. Yes, the restaurant was originally started in Paris back in 1972 under a different name, Les Moines de Saint-Bernardin. They opened their restaurant in New York in January of 1986. And yes, they filed their trademark to secure the name on May 29th, 1984. They knew that it wouldn't make any sense for them to even consider opening in the US under that name unless they could own it. And now they do. So here are your 15 lessons on how to treat your brand if you're starting or running a food business. Whether it's a food truck, a one location restaurant, or a huge chain, it all boils down to one strategy. If you want to become successful in this industry, you got to protect your brand early on. In many cases, you want to trademark your brand before you even open your doors. Failing that, you want to trademark your brand long before you get enough publicity for some unscrupulous copycats to file their own trademarks to kill your dream in its tracks. Each of these restaurants and food truck operators believed they were building something great long before they started making millions and billions of dollars. They didn't look at trademarking as something that they might do once they become big and famous. They looked at trademarking as something you do early on if you hope to one day become big and famous. If you're out there trying to convince people to choose your food truck over everyone else's. If you're out there hoping you might one day franchise your restaurant all over the country or even the world, do what all these successful restaurants did and start treating your brand seriously. Today, your brand is an asset, but only if you own it. And there is no other way to own your brand than to trademark it before somebody else does. If you want to trademark your brand with a guaranteed result for a guaranteed budget, check out Trademark Factory. We've helped thousands of brand owners protect their brands, and we'd love to help you secure yours.
Get a trademark.